This is Ian Watkins, lead singer of the Lost Prophets, was a massive rock band back in the day, sold millions of records. And what people didn't know is while he was on stage with all these kids screaming his name and everyone idolizing him, is that he was committing some of the most horrific acts imaginable. Now, he was actually put in jail for these horrific crimes, and I mean horrific, against children. And only a couple of weeks ago, he was murdered, which sort of brought this all up in the news. And I wasn't really that familiar with the case, and I thought, I'm going to look into this, because I see his face on thumbnails, but like, what actually happened? And the more I read up, the more physically sick. Genuinely, it was bloody hell like. I do research on weird subjects, dark subjects, every fucking week. Without a doubt, the worst things I've ever read. I've never been exposed to anything like that before. I mean, it was just, it fucking blew me mind. It was upsetting. And part of us thought, you know what, don't do the video. Don't breathe life into this sort of sick, horrible shit. But also, then it was like, it made you realize like just how sheltered we are, and like, because you see things in the news, man jailed, but you don't actually understand the fucking real dark details of it. And the reality is that like these fucking vampires, these sick fucks, they're walking around just, you know, in plain sight. And I think one of the reasons we're not exposed to the details of what these people do is the outrage. They're trying to quell it. That when they're giving these slap on the wrist sentences to all these people, they don't want you to know the truth, because then we'd go fucking mental. And I believe there's some weird reason why government are so lenient with this sort of stuff, to be honest. I think there's a reason behind it, and I don't know what that is, but it's unnatural the way these lot get treated. And a lot of people, when they do videos about this, they leave out the worst details for multiple reasons. I mean, it's such a hard thing to read, and a lot of people don't want to get demonetized on their YouTube channel. And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I'm going to fucking read it, because people should know what the fuck is going on and how bad this stuff is. And like, someone might be offended that I'm reading it out. I'm not meaning to offend anyone. I don't want to offend anyone, of course not especially not on a subject like this. But you shouldn't be offended by me reading something like this out. You should be offended by the fact that it's happening so much, and more so how it's being dealt with by the police, because this case, the police could have stopped him from what he was doing years before they did, and they just turned a blind eye. Multiple times this was reported to them, and they did nothing. And when I read out what he actually did, if you've not heard it before, it's going to fucking blow your whole mind. Now, before we go down the rabbit hole, I do want to thank my amazing sponsors for this video, Incogni, who protect you lot with an amazing service at an amazing price. And without them, I couldn't do videos like this where if it gets demonetized, it gets demonetized, and I want to do it my way. So big thanks to Incogni. All of your personal data could easily be on the internet right now and you wouldn't have a clue. But there would be signs. Random spam emails, random phone calls. And genuinely, when you're getting that shit, you're at risk. In boxing terms, your chin's wide open, your guard's low. In football terms, it's an open goal. Where's the centre-backs? Where's the goalkeeper? Well, I'll tell you where. Incogni. This is your line of protection against these data brokers who are out there online, stealing your information and selling it on the internet. And what Incogni does is it acts as your personal security team to go out there and to stop it from happening and to keep you secure. Because unfortunately, this can get really serious where people take bank cards out in people's names. It's a very dark, dark place, the internet. And Incogni is super easy to use. You just create an account, tell them whose data specifically you want removed from the internet, and boom, they're on it. And the beauty is it's 30 days risk-free. So if you try it and it's not for you, you can get a full refund. So if you want to sleep better at night knowing that you're not going to be a victim of any of this stuff, go to incogni.com/Geordie and you'll get a massive 60% off your annual plan. It's a great price for you and your family's safety. And also when you do it, you're helping us pay for the content, and I really appreciate everyone who signs up. Now, Ian Watkins had pretty much everything a man could want in life. Money, fame, charisma, talent. He had attention from women, and he used this adulation that these women had for him. Obviously, being a big singer in this band, you know what women are like with these boy bands and rock stars. They worship them. And he specifically found some of these women who were young mothers who had little babies, and he gave them that attention so he could gain access to their children. And the fucking crazy thing about it is as crazy as it is that someone would do that, it's just as crazy, if not more crazy to me, that these women were willing participants who offered up their children to him and got involved with it all. Obviously, you understand predators exist, but you think that goes against every human nature, human instinct possible in a mother to hand your child over to the devil himself, basically. It's disgusting and it's mind-blowing. And what I found weird when I was looking at his life is like, There was no major red flags early on. He seemed to be very loved as a child by his parents. He had no financial issues. The one thing you could say is his father died, but like people's parents die all the time. It doesn't mean that they're going to turn into this. And his mother then remarried to a church pastor. So it wasn't like there was no male guidance there. He was a straight A student at school. Everything seemed normal. And obviously he loved music growing up, and he was in a few rock bands before eventually forming the Lost Prophets with a good mate of his. And if you were a fan of like new metal and alternative rock back in the early 2000s, you knew who the Lost Prophets were. That was the era where like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and all these kinds of bands were just dominating. And the Lost Prophets were one of the few bands like from the UK actually like make it in America to some degree. They were on Linkin Park shows. They were the highest charting UK artists in America in 2003. And they sold over 3.5 million albums worldwide. They were signed to Columbia. This is like the company who owns Beyonce's records. They were fucking huge, and they were working with guys like Rick Rubin, like people who are like monsters of the industry. And at the very start, Ian was actually a straight edge guy, which is unusual for a rock guy. He didn't touch drugs or alcohol or anything. But somewhere along the way, early on, he got exposed to crystal meth, cocaine, and before you knew it, he went from not doing drugs to being the drug guy. And the way it's been spoken about is that like those drugs were a bit of an enabler for him to open up the most evil side of his personality. From the darkness within, it all came pouring out. And obviously at the time, he had a lot of female fans, especially underage fans. And this, like drugging himself to such a crazy degree, it seemed to give him the confidence and the carelessness to go and do what he wanted to these young girls. And he actually seemed to get off on telling his actual girlfriends who he would have sporadically within his story who were of age, you know, like these were public eye women that he would have to sort of, I guess, keep his reputation intact. And he told them about 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds that he would not just do things with, but he would secretly film it. And the things he would do would go all the way to anal sex and pissing on these girls and getting them to thank him for it on camera. And for me, when I was reading this, and as I'm kind of telling you it in the order I read it in, that was like a fucking holy shit moment. And what's mental is that's the tip of the iceberg. In relation to what he did eventually, it's like it almost like him sort of getting worse and worse and worse, because it wasn't enough for him. As bad and as dark and as twisted as that was, it didn't quench the, like I called him a vampire earlier, like the ultimate bloodthirst he had for the youngest possible child he could get his hands on. When they eventually rumbled Ian, and I'll get into how he was caught later, but he was found with, I think, terabytes upon terabytes of indecent footage, as they call it. This included 90 images of children between the ages of 2 and 14 years old. And I watched a good friend of mine, Emma Kenny's video on this, the criminal psychologist. If you've never seen her, she's fantastic, because she's worked with survivors of this sort of stuff. And what she explained in her video was what these images mean, because I hear things like level 4, level 5. I don't have a fucking clue what that is when we're reading it in the news. None of us do, really. There were 45 images within that 90 that were considered level 4. And Emma explained that this was penetrative sexual activity of 2 to 14-year-olds. There were 2 images that were classed as level 5, which you're like, well, what the fuck could be worse than level 4? According to Emma, that means rape or physical harm. So torture of children. That's what this guy was into. And he was on stage singing away, everyone jamming to his fucking music, supporting him, loving him, paying tickets, paying CDs, t-shirts on, posters on the wall. That was this guy. Fucking unbelievable. And a great point Emma did make in her video was that, you know, when it comes to these level of images, it's not just the people creating them who are committing a crime. If you're viewing them, you're creating a demand and you're complicit. You're part of the problem just as much as the people creating them, really. And there was also 22 images of bestiality, which obviously involves animals and people, I believe. I don't know if that's children as well. You wouldn't put anything past this guy. And within all of the footage they found, they're seeing, you know, multiple things where he was doing things with children and their mothers were involved, and they all ended up in court. And I'm going to read, as daunting as this is to do this on YouTube, I'm going to read this, what the judge said that they'd done. Now, they refer to the first mother as woman B. The judge says that they met when she was 19 years old, and the communications between the two of them were seriously disturbing. He does mention that she was manipulated by Watkins, which I'm going to get onto in a minute. But the really important thing he details here is that she was a mother of 19 and her infant was only 10 months old. Not even a year old. It's unbelievable. Now, they've got a text message from Ian Watkins to her that says, come down this weekend and we can fuck him up again. She texts back saying, tell me if you want to get your dick in our boy. That's a mother. I mean, my mind's just like, it doesn't comprehend it. And she'd actually referred to him, to the little boy, getting him high on methamphetamine. Imagine that. All because she's obsessed with this fucking Rockstar. She's willing to literally destroy her own child. The judge then goes into detail on a meeting the two had in a West London hotel where they recorded a video. He says, what did you do? You presented your baby to him so she could try and rape him. First in the mouth, then in the anus. Watkins can be seen spitting on the boy's bottom to facilitate the attempt. You can be heard and seen encouraging him. Could there be a greater betrayal? It's just fucking insane. It's absolutely insane, and I don't know what else to say. Like, I talk for a living. It's fucking heartbreaking. And then she took her son's penis in her mouth and then took the boy's hand and put it on her own vagina. Then Watkins masturbated the boy and they videoed the whole thing. And they were enjoying it, according to the judge. And the fact that the judge, like, and I'm struggling to keep it together a bit, I've got to admit, the fact that the fucking judge said you were manipulated. She was putting her own son's hand in her vagina. She put her son's penis in her mouth, her baby boy. And you're telling me she was manipulated? Shut the fuck up. Manipulated. This is this most serious crimes imaginable. And you're bringing up manipulation when she was 50-50, totally complicit. I don't give a fuck if it was his idea. She was absolutely 100% doing everything with him. And she got a lighter sentence than him when she was the baby's mother. If that doesn't show the level of insanity and sexism in courts, I don't know what will, because many would say that she did worse than Ian Watkins by being the mother and offering her child up to the devil. Watkins later afterwards texted her saying, the boy is ready to be abused. And then about a couple of months later, he said, to be honest, though, I think we have gone easy on him so far. Time to teach him and make him learn to love it. The words are so dark, so evil, beyond comprehension. Like, I'm not a religious person necessarily, but like when you hear of like the devil and like true darkness, true evil, that's what I fucking feel when I read these words. This is the most evil thing in the world. On the 9th of September, you sent Watkins a photo of you licking your son's penis. It's just fucking unbelievable, isn't it? On to the next mother, who was known as P. There was talk of them moving in together, apparently. Watkins had said to her, if you belong to me, so does your baby. It's clear that he had no fucking interest in these women. And how pathetic are they? I mean, they are literally the lowest of the low. Using your baby to keep a paedophile interested in you. Bloody hell. She responds to that message about him owning her baby. Understandable. A mother-daughter slave duo worshipping you. Watkins said, that's all she will know, a life of filth. People are just sort of slaves for him. That's all they are. They're just opportunities to just abuse and just destroy, and there's not a shred of anything in him of humanity. Nothing. And again, back to the mothers. I mean, she says to him, the good thing about babies is you put anything near their mouths and they will start sucking it. That's so fucked up, like. And she is saying like things about wanting her and the child to put their mouths on Watkins. There was more communications after that where they were talking about drugging the girl up and forcing her to engage with animals. He referred to her as my little fuck toy and just try to like not even a human being. And actually the judge goes on to say that it wasn't just for his own sick pleasure. He actually wanted to rent this baby girl out to fat old men who would pay thousands. So it's not just for his own physical thing. It's just the general destruction of a child. Even if other people are doing it, he's enjoying it. He said, she needs to know mummy and daddy don't love her. She is just there to make us come. Really, really mind-blowingly dark. The mother would send pictures of the girl's genitalia to Watkins on picture messages, including a photograph, I think, of the mother with her finger inside her daughter. After the mother sends the picture, Watkins then sends a message about what he wants to do with the little girl. I'm not even going to read it because I think you get the point at this stage. He's the evilest, most fucking horrific creature. They met up at a hotel and I think they denied anything happening, obviously, but she would have had the baby with her, and exactly like the other mother did, we all know what would have happened. Now, when Watkins was actually arrested, he claimed innocence and told everyone, oh, I'm not guilty. I'm going to have my day in court. I'm going to prove myself innocent here. What this did was it enabled them to plant seeds of doubt in people's mind. It enabled them to keep on going around talking to friends and family and acting like, I've done nothing wrong. They supported him, in fact, especially his family. But as soon as he got to court, he pled guilty immediately. And what really annoyed me about this court case is that the mothers were acknowledged to have been manipulated. You don't get manipulated into handing over the thing you're supposed to love more than anything else in the world and protect to a predator. You have to be complicit in that. You have to be wanting to... And at what point are we going to treat women like grown adults here who are capable of making decisions? And if they make the wrong one, they should be fully fucking responsible for it. I don't get what he said. Did he tell you to jump off the bridge? Would you jump off the bridge? Is that how that works, is it? They were doing things to their baby when they weren't even with him. Everything in their bodies should have been recoiling and telling them, this is a must do not do this. Never ever let anyone like this even near your child, let alone them getting involved and recording it and cheering it on. Why the fuck are we talking about manipulation and doing down the severity of what they did? If anything, a lot of people would look at that and go, the mothers are worse. But he got 29 years and would have been eligible for parole in 2031. One of the mothers got less than half that, and she's already been released. She was out in 2023. The other mother got 17 years and she got released as well. And guess what? She reoffended and they've had to lock her back up. But remember, she was manipulated, you know? Fuck me. The fact that this sort of darkness, this level of evil could happen, and yet all three of these people have a potential of seeing the outside world ever, in my opinion, is a disgrace. You can't reform people who do stuff like this. It's impossible. This ain't like, oh, I've stolen some money from someone, or, you know, don't do it again, oh, lesson learned. This is sick and twisted desires that don't just go away. You could never be safe letting people like that back on the streets, ever. And the fact that she reoffended just proves everything. Annoyingly, they were granted anonymity under UK law as well, so like, they're protected, so no one will ever know who they are. And ironically, that was to protect the children involved. So, I mean, at least someone's thinking of the kids. But it wasn't the fucking mothers, was it? The kids obviously went into care. And imagine their life when one day they learn of what they were a victim of. I mean, fuck me. I have enormous sympathy for them to hear all of that, to know that the person who's supposed to love and protect you did that to you and handed you over to the devil himself. Can't believe it. I just can't fucking believe it. Now, obviously, during the time he was committing all of these crimes, and I really still believe that what we've got is probably the tip of the iceberg, right? There's a lot more that's probably gone on. There was a lot more people reported him. He was reported by 6 different people while this was all happening. An Australian woman reported him for abusing her child. He was reported for abusing an 18-month-old at one point. And I think the thing that really stood out in looking at the story was the fact that a girlfriend of his reported him loads of times and she was ignored. Now, the girlfriend's name was Joanne, and she actually was a prostitute when they met. Now, on the one hand, she gathered a lot of evidence and seemed to be a force for really trying to get him locked up. But on the other hand, she had his initials tattooed on her. And even knowing what he was into and what he was doing, continued to have sex with him throughout the years. It's a very weird and complicated situation, these two. Some people kind of look at her like an undercover cop who was just doing what she had to do in order to get the information out of him to try and lock him up. I personally don't think it was anywhere near that level of professionalism. She wasn't hired to be an undercover cop. Like, she chose to have sex with him. I think she was very emotionally attached to him. She did know what he was doing was wrong. She did want him locked up. But also, if you know someone that's capable of that level of evil and you continue having sex with him, your hands can never be clean. It's good that you got the dirt on him, but equally, like, it's mental the way that went down. And I've got an interview of hers to give you an idea of what she said happened.
He was really charismatic, charming, and just totally I don't know, just normal.
Would it be fair to say that he swept you off your feet?
Well, yeah, he did.
Without knowing the whole story, like the fact that he met her when she was a prostitute, like, I don't know what it's like to be a prostitute. I don't imagine there's many celebrities who are sweeping them off their feet a lot. And I think Ian was obviously an expert at identifying vulnerable people who were susceptible to his, whatever you want to fucking call it, his ability to get in your head. And maybe there was a financial incentive as well with her, like obviously not having an easy life and him being incredibly wealthy.
I saw him as like the guy that took care of his family. looked after his mum.
Imagine you gave birth to someone who did this sort of shit to people. Fuck me. What a head fuck that would be.
It starts off with him saying to me about all these 14-year-old fans that he'd abused and took the virginity of. And he'd also been saying that he wanted to get me pregnant. He wanted to get me pregnant just so that he could abuse the baby.
Fucking hell. Is that not where this ends, though? If, like, even if you are, you know, someone who is a sex worker and, you know, you have to have sex for money to earn a living, surely when someone says something as fucked up as that, you go, that's enough. And that's where her story really confuses me, because continuously saying, I'm a fucking horrible, evil bastard, like, and she just sticks around. And I get at some point it became some sort of detective job for her in her own mind. But there's a point where, like, yeah, you're telling us, oh, he's terrible, he's a weird. But yeah, you're weird as well, though. This is fucking mental.
Joanne threatened to report him to the police because she suspected he was abusing a young child. She says Watkins begged her not to, and he got his solicitors to draw up a gagging order against her.
He presents you with a document which, in effect, claims that you'd made all this up.
That I was a liar.
That you were a liar.
Yeah. And
you signed it.
Yeah. I was forced to sign it really under duress, but I signed it because I'd sought legal advice as well. And
what advice had you been given?
That I could still go to the police, because he was threatening me, saying I couldn't go to the police. He was saying I couldn't even go to the police if I'd signed that.
Is it possible that the police have taken a sceptical view of you and your story because of the gagging order, because this document exists, which you signed?
I think it's an excuse.
Couple of things. Why the fuck did you sign it? Oh, it was under duress. Look, if you're that passionate about saving these kids and protecting them and all of that, you don't fucking sign that, do you? I believe she signed it because she wanted to keep being able to see him, and that was a deal breaker for him, where he put that on the table and either sign that, I'm not seeing you anymore. And she signed it because she has this emotional connection with him, despite what a fucking evil cunt he is. And then them saying, oh, is that why the police didn't believe it? The police didn't believe her because they didn't believe anyone who fucking reported Ian Watkins. He was reported by fucking 5 other people and her multiple times. They didn't believe any of them. And there was things that were said about, oh, well, you know, he's a rock star, and, you know, we don't want to have someone from our area in I think it was in Wales, negative publicity. And it's kind of like what happened with a lot of the, like Jimmy Savile and them. They just get away with it because of the fame. But this year, you know, him saying these things to her and then her going along with it, signing a paper and continuing on to see him, it's where her story just fucks me up, man. It's just so strange. And it doesn't add up.
Joanne received £2,000 from Watkins for what she says was services she provided him as an escort.
Oh, God, it just gets worse, doesn't it? Fuck me. He's paying her money as well, and she knows what he's doing, and she's going along with it, and she's getting money.
At the end of December 2008, Joanne did go ahead and contact South Wales Police at the Child Protection Unit at Pontypridd Police Station. Joanne says she did more than tell the police about the disturbing things that Watkins had told her. She also says she sent them a copy of this photograph. It shows a young girl of about 4 years of age who's holding a photo frame with the picture of a scantily clad woman. On top of the frame is a razor blade and a thin line of white powder. In her other hand, the girl is holding a rolled up £20 note. It appears to be drugs paraphernalia, and Joanne says Watkins told her the white powder was cocaine. We can't show the picture for legal reasons. Joanne told us, for the first time, that she went to Rhondda Cynon Taf Social Services as well as the police.
None of them gave a fuck. None of them cared. Long story short. But again, even after that, she goes back to him.
Joanne gets back in touch with Watkins, believing she must have been wrong about him, and she apologises.
I thought, maybe I did get it wrong.
Was that when the bills needed paying as well, by any chance? He fucking told you what he was doing to these kids. He showed you a photograph of one doing drugs. At what point did you get anything wrong? It doesn't add up, man.
The police didn't do anything about it, and he was saying all along that it was just coke talk and it wasn't real. So maybe I did get it wrong.
I don't believe you. I do not fucking believe you.
A couple of weeks later, they meet up at a hotel in Leeds, and Joanne is horrified by a video on his laptop, which he says shows a young girl being raped.
He sat there and he's just staring at me with this evil smirk on his face, because he wanted a reaction. And I could just feel the tears. And I'm thinking at the same time, oh my God, I wasn't wrong about him. I wasn't wrong about him. And at the same time in my head I'm thinking, I've got to report him again, but I can't report him again because what am I going to say? He's got this video on his laptop. He's just going to hide the laptop like he hid everything else.
I think he really got off on not just doing the horrible, evil shit, but also showing women like her and seeing their reaction, almost reliving it all over again. But why this woman kept putting herself in these positions with him, apologising to him, sorry I got it wrong, fuck me.
Fearing that her various concerns about Watkins aren't being followed up, Joanne turns to the father of the little girl in the picture. And she's shocked to discover that he knows nothing about the photograph involving his daughter. We've spoken to the child's father, and he's confirmed that he did report the matter to South Wales Police. But he says he was told not to pursue it anymore because it could ruin Ian's career.
Fuck me, man. Sound like he's fucking PA, not the fucking police.
Joanne is in contact with a woman on Twitter who in turn knows Watkins. Joanne is concerned that Watkins may have access to the woman's young child.
We exchange a few emails and then we exchange phone numbers, and she calls me and I tell her that I'm wanting to make an appointment to go and see the police, to make a statement again and to give them my laptop. And I said, have you got anything? And she said, well, yeah, he's told me that he wants to put GHB in his sippy cup and on his dummy and rape him.
Joanne agrees with the woman to visit her local police station at Doncaster a few days later. But she fails to turn up.
The mother just carried on letting the baby be raped. Didn't turn up to the police station. Now, the maddest thing about the fact that Ian Watkins was eventually arrested after all of these accusations from these women was that they arrested him for drugs. They ignored all of those allegations, and they actually responded more promptly from someone saying that he was selling or distributing drugs. And they raided him looking for drugs. And when they got all of his electronics and all that, they had them at the cop shop for about 2 fucking months before they actually looked through them. When they finally looked through them, that's when they were like, oh shit, all these people were telling the truth. And even his passwords to get into the files and all of that, because he had all these passwords on his laptop with things like he fucks kids. And like when you hear that, it's almost as a way of him laughing at everyone. Like, I'm so confident you're not going to touch me that I'm even going to have it in my passwords as the clue of what I'm doing. And it's just ironic that like us Joe Public, we would want you to take the kids stuff way more seriously than the drug stuff. And yet they hear about the drugs and they fucking snap into action as quick as possible. Multiple years of being told about this kid stuff. The girl took fucking laptops and that. Look at me laptop. I've got videos here. To the police station. Ignored. The police officer didn't want to fucking know. Into drugs and, well, we make money out of that, can't we? Get the drugs off them. Now, after Ian Watkins was convicted, Joanne was very vocal, very public about, I'd been saying this the whole fucking time. She called out the men in his band. She called out his mother. She claimed more people knew, which I think is a bit ironic considering she carried on shagging him. But her point is right. If they did know, that is disgusting, disgraceful, and they should be shamed for that at the very least. And despite all of the evidence that she provided to the cops in order to try and help with this whole situation, the cops publicly ignored her and took all the credit for their investigation. And she just wouldn't go quietly, so she's on TV interviews letting everyone know they did fuck all for years. And the police then went and arrested Joanne for the material that he had shared with her on her computer, as though she was complicit in the whole operation. And to be fair, I think that's a reasonable thing to investigate if you just happen to find it on some, you know what I mean? Like, but she'd been telling them, you need to check this guy out. I've got this stuff he sent us. Like, you know why it's there. And I think it's been highly speculated that the cops were wanting to silence her very public criticism and shut her up. And an easy way to do that is to lock her up with him. As you can see here, Ian Watkins' ex-lover found not guilty over child abuse images, cleared of possessing indecent images after arguing she was trying to bring lost profit singer to justice. So despite some of my criticism of her, she did prove herself not guilty. And I can't lie, like, as much as what she did was fucked up and very weird, if they'd have listened to her from the get-go, they could have saved numerous children from being raped. And as weird as what she did was, she's just, no offense, an idiot member of the public. She can't conduct an investigation. That was the police's job. And they failed these children so badly. Really, compensation should have been paid out, because if they had acted initially, things would have been different. Still bad, but not years and years more. Now, when he got sent to jail, he went to HMP Wakefield, which is known as Monster Mansion because of all of the fucking lunatics they've got in there, apparently. Originally, I think it was mainly a pedo prison, and now it's like 60-40 of like 40% normal criminals, like just your good old-fashioned murderers, which in these kind of scenarios seem like the good guys, weirdly. Don't get me wrong, keep them locked up, but I prefer them to the pedos. At least with a killer, you know where you stand. And one thing I found quite mental when I was looking into the way they get treated in this prison is that these nonces are known as VPs, which is short for vulnerable prisoners. The irony that they're all in there for abusing very vulnerable people, the most vulnerable people in society, and yet they're seen as, oh, they're a victim, oh, we got to protect them, got to look out for them. Fucking hell, mate. Honestly, this country is so ridiculous, isn't it? And when Watkins was in jail, he was getting still countless letters and attention from all these female fans. I mean, he was inundated, not just with letters, but with them wanting to come and meet him in the jail. How was that even fucking allowed? How the fuck can you go to jail for doing that to people? And then people are allowed to come and see you? That's fucking insane, that. Honestly, I'd be way tougher on crime than these fucking pricks are. Vote for Geordie, I tell you, fuck me, I'll change the fucking world. Now, when he was first locked up, he was doing multiple phone calls with these girls. A lot of them mothers, with children even. Basically denying, what he was accused of, saying that he was going to put out a statement and that it was mega lols, which is a phrase he used to use when he was a music artist. And it just showed the total lack of remorse and the lack of seriousness to which he treated this whole situation with. He claimed that when he was in court, he was going to win them over with his charm. In another conversation he had with a woman who came to visit him, it was said that he had asked, what would you do if your 2-year-old child came into the room while we were having sex? So you can see it's still on the fucking brain. Even when he's locked up, it doesn't matter. It's in him. There is no reforming these cunts. And the fact that even being locked up, he's able to continue these sort of fantasies, even verbally with these women, and to explore what may happen and all of that. That, to me, is a real piss take. Oh, it's his human rights. Human rights? Fuck human rights when you've done something like this, like. And that woman, by the way, her child was removed from her and was put into care. I don't know why. It doesn't take a genius to guess, like, what kind of conversations they would have been having when they were in private. Apparently, when these girls would come and visit him, they were often dressed in quite gothic style clothing, and they would like hold his hand, they'd be giggling away. To them, he was still this celebrity, and he was basically having fucking dates in prison. One of them had a ring on. He was saying, oh, that can be your engagement ring, like, wait for us. I think the only good thing about him being locked up was the fact of who he was locked up with, because while these girls coming to visit him might have thought he was great, the other prisoners did not. And the only thing that I think helped him survive as long as he did was money, because unlike all of these other prisoners in there, this guy's net worth at one point was worth millions. So by the time he was locked up, he would have had a lot of money in the bank, because for some reason, it wasn't all taken off him and given to look after the victims who are put into care. You'd think, like, if he's got, like, let's say $1 million, $2 million, whatever he's got in the bank, that should go towards their lives, to look after them. That should be theirs. And yet, he was using it in jail to buy drugs, pay for protection, to look after himself. But what does seem to have happened as time went on is his level of protection that he was able to afford himself was decreased more and more, especially when a lot of these killers ended up in the prison with him. One of the stories I heard that they did to him was they'd get like a shampoo bottle. They'd unscrew the shampoo bottle. One of the prisoners would piss and shit in it, basically, right? He'd screw it back the top on. They'd wrap it in like king film. They'd leave it like for a week or something, so it was like fucking horrendous, but they'd obviously wrap it up so they couldn't smell it. Then they'd go past his cell, unwrap it all, and fucking dash it all over him while he's laying there on his bed. Obviously, it was fucking rank, and it stunk the whole fucking prison out. The problem is this guy was buying so many drugs. He was so off his face when he was in jail. He didn't even know what the fuck was going on when they did it to him. The prisoners were actually more impacted by it than he was, because he was so out of it. And that's, again, another thing where it's like, the guy's not even really doing time properly, like the way he should be. He's off his face the whole time. Might as well have just fucking killed him. And he was almost killed in 2023, to be fair, when an unpaid drug debt, I think, came back to bite him. Because what these prisoners would do was they'd charge like 150 quid for some spice, as they call it, to regular inmates, but he would pay 900 quid, because we're like, you've got fucking money, mate. Something happened. He wasn't willing to pay the full price. He was taken hostage. He was stabbed. He was beaten up. He was tortured for hours, and he escaped with his life somehow that day. There was other issues where, like, he had been found with a phone shoved up his arse, which was like £1,000 phone that another one of these probably higher ranking prisoners had loaned him for £1,000. He then had to pay this guy $5,000 when he couldn't give him the phone back. And that brings us on to these two fellas here, Samuel Dodsworth and Rashid Goodell, who recently killed Ian Watkins, and it was a very quick death. One of them held him down, the other one stabbed him. It was over very, very quickly, very brutally violent. I think one of them was in prison for murder before, one of them was in prison for raping a woman. So, you know, I'm not going to call them heroes, but you could consider this prison justice, because this guy didn't deserve to live. I'm happy he was fucking killed. There should be a lesson to anyone out there who's having these sort of sick fucking thoughts of that's what's fucking coming for you. And I think there's multiple lessons that can be learned from this. Like with someone like that in the public eye who was so idolized and worshipped, I think there must have been times where people around him, they turned a blind eye. They knew something wasn't quite right. And actually, there's a video clip of him back in the day which really points to that. So this is the band he was in, obviously Lost Prophets here, answering questions from fans. And one of them writes in, and I think her username is like Baby Girl.
Baby Girl asks, what's your guilty pleasure? Just answered it.
The fact that he says so freely in front of his bandmates, you just answered it, meaning she said, baby girl, what's your guilty pleasure? And he went, you just answered it. He said that in front of his bandmates. Let's see what their faces do here as the sort of laughter dies down. I'm going to watch that blonde guy's reaction again. Look at that face. Oh no. Yeah, he knows. I'm not saying they knew everything, but like this guy really liked people knowing what he was getting up to. Clearly, he never shut up about it, all these girls. And in the days before he was finally arrested, he tweeted out, well, that escalated pretty quickly. ... I do apologize. I think this was in reference to maybe a movie or something he was watching, but everyone looks at it as like a really weird final tweet because he was arrested for the worst crimes possible only days later. Now, I'm not sure how well you can make this out, but I think you can tell here. This is Ian Watkins dressed up as Santa Claus on a kids' music TV show. He's got a little baby on his knee here that they're exposing to this. He's a family man, apparently. You know, you've got little kids sitting on his knee, and again, it's like a lot of people around him, in my opinion, should have been blowing the whistle way harder. Way fucking harder. But thank God someone slit his fucking throat and got rid of him, because honestly, if he'd have been released in 2031, only 6 years away, less than that probably, there's no doubt in my mind he would have been a danger to everyone again. And the guys who did it have done us all a fucking favour. So that was the story of Lost Prophets frontman Ian Watkins, who did the most evil things I've ever read. And I appreciate it if you made it at the end of the video, because this wasn't an easy one. It wasn't a nice thing to read out, but I think it's important that we do fucking know that creatures like this are out there and to be fucking aware. And my heart goes out to anyone who was a victim of his. God only knows what on earth he put people through, and even just what we've read today is enough to give you fucking nightmares. If you want me to do more crime style videos like this, it's been a little while. I do a bit of news and stuff like this, but let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the case, about the police and everything. I really appreciate everything that you can give me. I always appreciate it a lot. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.